New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you here on the New Thought Media Network. It's 2 o'clock on the Mountain Time Zone on a Tuesday afternoon, and that means it is time for New Thought Today. My regular co-host, Reverend Elzia, is taking a long overdue and well-deserved day off with his beautiful beloved up in the mountains. And so we get the great pleasure of having the Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony with us.
Hey there.
New Thought, Philadelphia. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I am living a dream. It is wonderful. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. You're wearing the red, I see.
I'm wearing red. Got the roses in the background here.
Yeah, I have a little bit of burgundy and no roses. But that's okay.
Well, Valentine's Day is a wonderful New Thought holiday because it's the one that reminds us that there's love. And not necessarily the smarmy, the Hallmark card, Russell Stover chocolates, naughty card love, but infinite divine love. And certain circumstance that just like went beyond any planning, because this was long before I had anything to do with New Thought. I even had a thought about it back when I was a wise-ass radio guy. I got married on Valentine's Day, so it's also my anniversary.
I did not know that. Congratulations. Happy anniversary to you.
Thank you.
And share our love with your wife as well, and congratulations to her as well.
You bet. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, folks, some of you may recognize Reverend Bill. He has a program here on the network on Monday afternoons, 11 o'clock, called The Practical Prayer. Before we go too much further, Bill, tell everybody a little bit about that.
When I started in my ministry, and it's like 10, 12 years ago at this point, what I really wanted was a way of describing spiritual mind treatment that didn't use all the antiquated language. And what I really wanted was a book, a primer that says, here's how you do it, and here are a bunch of sample prayers that you can use to kickstart your prayer practice. So if you're looking for a prayer about your physical well-being or something about prosperity or relationships, you can go to that section and find a prayer that's going to be right. Somebody in the family is going to have surgery. There's a prayer for a successful surgical outcome. So I wanted to have that. And so I wish somebody had written something like that, and there wasn't one, so I wrote it. And the book is called Practical Prayer for Real Results. And it's getting some it's getting some traction. We teach that as a framework because spiritual mind treatment is a practical prayer and vice versa. It's just a slightly different language for describing it. And when we teach our foundational classes, we include a workshop on practical prayer, and there's now a class for doing that online. And I wanted to do something like a podcast or a radio broadcast or something where I could talk about the teaching, and lots of fits and starts didn't work, and it was because I didn't have the right co-host. Because you and I get together and talk about spiritual mind treatment, we can do 6 episodes, and then we're going to feel like we've exhausted the entire topic. So I got a mentee. This woman, Carol Lawrence, found me. She'd spent 35 years on a Christian pulpit, 3 different denominations, and then had discovered New Thought. And I was like, oh my gosh, all these things that I've been teaching people for all those years are not exactly true. There's a different way of looking at it from the metaphysical perspective. So we're closing in on 100 episodes that we've been doing. Yeah, I think episode 90 drops this week. And she keeps on asking really fundamental and provocative questions. And we dive down into, why is it not duality? What about Jesus? What about Every one of them is a different topic. And about a half a year ago, we started doing the recordings for the podcast live on New Thought Media Network. So our Monday show is basically a little pre-show. It's kind of like if you've ever been in the studio audience for a TV taping. They get together, they do a little pre-show, they ask some questions, talk amongst the audience, and then record the program, and then afterwards maybe there's some Q&A. So that's what we do on New Thought Media Network. And the heart of that is what turns into a podcast after it goes to our editor in Bosnia and Herzegovina to take the ums and stutters out.
Which is not easy work.
No, and I know how to do it myself, but
making it sound good is not easy work in itself. So
yeah.
But I watch your show regularly, and I love it because it does feel a little bit like a peek behind the scenes. And okay, folks, let's sit down and hash out, well, what do you want to talk about today? And here on this show, on this program, folks, we do that before we turn the cameras on. We sit in the green room and we chat about this, that, and the other thing, how our kids are doing, how our families are doing, and then we zero in on where we're going for each day or what we want to talk about. And you're already touching on some of it, Bill, because really the impetus behind this program is how do we embrace new thought, not necessarily from the old version of bridging Christianity into new thought, which is really a lot of our history in this movement, is re-explaining Christian tradition and philosophy in a new thought language. Now we're making new thought relevant to a younger audience and to a group perhaps that's never had any of that Christian background or any of that Christian languaging in their lives. And that's what I kind of see you doing with your book and with God Calls and other things that you're doing, is making this approachable for a more contemporary audience, let's say.
Yeah. And it doesn't really matter where you start. As we talk about, every religion is basically a different path up the same mountain of spirituality. We can start with Scripture. We can start with the New Testament. And I like to skip all the stuff that Jesus didn't say and focus on the stuff that he did, because there's some really meaty stuff in there that doesn't necessarily mean what people think it means at first blush. Or we can start with self-help. There are a lot of people who are going out and doing self-help, and you can do an affirmation, and an affirmation will change your life. It is awesome that an affirmation will change your life, and it keeps working right up until it stops working. And then there's like, well, why isn't my affirmation working? Oh, well, you have run into something pesky called your belief system. So if you don't believe it and you claim it, you're still going to get what you believe, which is not what you're claiming, and it'll look like the affirmation doesn't work. So taking it into a spiritual context is about turning it over and letting it not be me and my willpower and my mind and my affirmation that's doing the work, but me partnering with that infinite power and then letting that power move the mountain without me having to roll up my sleeves.
Yeah. I like that idea. Let's not roll up the sleeves.
If we want to roll up our sleeves, we can.
Right.
Being able to go to the gym and lift, pump iron is great if that's what you want to do. But you do that because you want to work out, not because you want to get the barbells to the top floor. For that, you can get an elevator.
Or hire somebody.
Well, yeah, there are techniques.
Exactly. Beautiful. I love it. Folks, if you're wondering what you've stumbled into here, this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. I've got my special guest host with me today, Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony from New Thought Philadelphia. We're going to try real hard not to talk about football. Oh, see, either.
Did I lose you or did you lose me?
I'm not sure, but I said I'm going to try real hard not to talk about football, and you were frozen, or I was.
Well, somebody froze. Well,
yes, so
what we can say about football is that Philadelphia is proud to have the second best football team in the world.
There you go.
Or maybe the second ranked football team in the world. It's possible they're still the best.
That's true. Yes. All right. I like that, and that's how we put a good varnish on the experiences of our lives sometimes.
Yeah.
But
We could have used either a slightly better team or slightly better referees.
I'm going to go with slightly better referees.
Okay, there you go. So, and I'm not a huge sports fan, but it's not like you could not watch the Super Bowl and be a Philadelphian.
This time around, yes, you're absolutely right. I would never have called myself a Philadelphian. Visited more times than I think my parents would have liked when I was in high school. However, had to root for the Eagles this year. I too was felt a little crestfallen, a little disappointed in those final few moments there of that.
Well, the next time we go to Unity Village, which is right outside Kansas City, we can allow them to crow.
Maybe.
And puff themselves a little bit. This is fine. Whatever you want to do, it's great. There will be another Super Bowl next year, and there's no guarantee that anything predictable is going to happen in that one.
That's true. Exactly. All right. So you said the magic words, Unity Village. Folks, what Reverend Bill is alluding to is a conference that happens at Unity Village every year. We've gone I've been there 2 years and running now, and Reverend Bill has been instrumental in this for quite a while. It's the Affiliated New Thought Network's annual conference. Tell us a little bit more about your involvement with ANTN.
Okay, well, let's see. I'll take a giant step back and then run at that one. I am the vice president of the board of directors of the Affiliated New Thought Network, Anton. And all the info is on the web at anton.org or newthought.org if you can't figure out how to spell Anton. And this is a wonderful organization, and it is very much set up as a network so that people who are involved in the New Thought teaching, philosophy, and community can get together and connect with each other. So there are a bunch of people who are ministers and senior ministers and pastors and pulpit ministers who get together with their colleagues and can talk about their craft. There are also lots and lots of people who are involved who are practitioners or prayer chaplains or whatever their particular denomination is, or they're just somebody who's enthusiastic about this. And it is a wonderful event because it's a small enough group that you get to know the people who are there. Including the noteworthy people who are presenting on the platforms. Matthew Fox was there one year, and Pam Gross was there another year. And at this point, we're transforming it from a conference into a retreat because we really want to have it be that spiritual, experiential kind of a thing. And also because I was involved in teen camp at the CSLs back in the day. And there's something wonderful about having the flexibility of doing a shared experience and getting a spiritual fix that way rather than just having somebody stand in the front of the room talking with a PowerPoint. So it is the first week in October. It's at Unity Village. And I am working with Martha Creek. She and I were co-chairs of the retreat last year because of a little change that the board made at Anton. A board member needs to be the chair, so I'm the retreat chair this year, and Martha is the mastermind of it. Jafan Seeley is one of our keynote speakers, and our music director is Daniel Namad, and he's going to be joined by Nemo Patel. They're going to do an opening night concert together on Monday night. I think it's the 3rd of October. And then Nemo is going to do a workshop, and Daniel is going to do music all week. And we've got power talks and presentations, and all kinds of wonderful people are going to be there. And we've set it up so that there's sacred time in the afternoon, so we can do some small group stuff. We can do meditations. You can sit in the prayer vigil at Unity Village, which is wonderful. The prayer vigil has been going continuously 24/7 for closing on 130 years, I think.
Wow.
And that is a really powerful spiritual context to set yourself in for half an hour. That is possibly the high point for me. The Unity archives are there. There's wonderful walking trails. There's lots of stuff to do. There's lots of stuff to not do. It's really beautiful. Food is awesome. Program's great. Unity Village is like one of those bucket list kind of places. And the first week in October, the weather's generally pretty nice.
Yeah.
So
it's been beautiful the last couple of years. And folks, you've heard me talk about this on this program over time as well. So plan now. Come join Reverend Dr. Bill and myself and a whole host of characters at the New Thought Retreat, ANTN's New Thought Retreat. Let's call it that. I'm sure there's a better name for that, and I'm missing it.
The retreat. That's fine. And the New Thought Media Network is helping us out again this year because we're going to be making all of the official program sessions available so that people can live stream and be remote without having to schlep to Unity Village. We're going to lose some of the retreat sort of things because doing a nature walk on Zoom is not the same.
Not the same.
Not the same. But we'll be doing that again, and this is, I think, our third year of doing that live to a virtual audience, and that's being able to do that hybrid is really powerful because people get to change their mind at the last minute. Like, oh, I was planning to go, but then one of my congregants got sick, or something happened and I needed to stay home. You can still attend even though you can't do the travel. So the pandemic has helped us a lot that way.
And that's one of the blessings in that is we were forced to embrace a new way of being in spiritual community with each other. And what I've always loved about New Thought is, we don't take no for an answer usually. Somebody says, you can't do that. The general response is, oh, yeah, watch me. Hold on a second. Let me show you how it's done then. And so we've learned and adapted to a new way of being together, both in person and online. And we're inviting you into that, folks. Come join us in person or online in either way. And what I also know is there are people that have shared with me that they didn't really want to get up in the morning to go to the morning session. So they had breakfast in bed, but were still able to be aware and be conscious of what's happening by live streaming instead of walking down the hall to the conference room, watching it on their computer and not missing any part of the experience simply because of location or proximity.
Yeah.
I like where we are.
Changes the rules, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Now, and that, again, is a big part of what we like to have conversations on around here is how are we changing the rules? What rules are changing? And more importantly, what do you see as part of the vision for the future of New Thought? How does New Thought play a role in the coming decades of human experience?
New Thought sort of starts and ends on the mechanism that creates the universe, that has created everything, that continues to create everything. So we don't have a whole lot of rules. We have a bunch of techniques. We have a bunch of ways of understanding how the process works, but it's really simple. At my home group at New Thought Philadelphia, we distilled down the beliefs to a single sentence. There are other groups that do 11 points of what we believe and others that do 5 or 6. And so we figured this is a teaching of oneness. So let's get it down to one. And it's really, really a broad stroke. We say there's one power, love, intelligence, or force that creates everything, including each of us. And then we each use that same power, love, intelligence, or force to create our lives according to our beliefs. Now, that's a run-on sentence. You can divide it into 2 sentences. But that's it. It does not say how to do it. There's a lot of nuance in how to do it. There is a lot of surrender, and there's a lot of changing language to be positive rather than negative. If somebody's feeling ill and they start talking about wanting to get rid of the illness, that's not going to lead them down the path that they want to go down.
Right.
So there's some transformational thinking that happens there. But the idea is, how do we distill the message down to that and then build it up in such a way that people are going to be able to hear it? And a lot of times folks are saying, well, how do we get younger people here? Well, do things and say things that younger people are interested in. If you expect young people to come along and listen to you saying things that you have gotten used to saying to old people, then perhaps perhaps it's not going to work as well as you would hope that it's going to work. Maybe it's time to try something a little bit different. I have a couple of 30-year-olds on my board. I have no idea how that happened. Because we're just being us and dispensing with the assumptions of the way things have to work because of the way that they used to work.
Right.
The other thing is when something happens, when a new possibility comes along, say yes to it. Even if it's not the same sort of thing that you've always done, and even if it's not the same sort of thing that you thought you wanted to do. Pandemic came along, and I remember it was March 12th of 2020 was the day that I closed and locked the office the door to my practitioner office in Center City, Philadelphia, and the last time that I ever went there. So went home, stayed home, moved everything online, and it's, on one hand, the best thing about a New Thought community, I mean, the prayer is nice, but the hugging, that's it. The food's good too, but getting together with that in that loving environment and being able to connect with other people is fabulously important. We didn't get to do that for a bunch of years, and along the way, my community has grown geographically to the point where I have a practitioner in Milwaukee, I have a board member in New Orleans, I have people on our daily meditations from Scotland and England and California and all over. And, being in the room together is nice, but I don't want to give up on those people.
Right.
So it's an and. How do we do what we want to be doing when we're in the room together and maintain the connection with the people who are geographically distant, and make sure that everybody gets their voice heard and gets to connect. So we're doing hybrid now, and I spent a bunch of years in broadcasting and then technology, and my last technology job was 5 years working for a software company that wrapped up in the end of 2019, and I was doing 5 Zoom meetings a day for 5 years. So I was real comfortable with Zoom and real comfortable with technology. So one of the things that I've offered up is I know how to do hybrid. I know how to coach somebody who doesn't know how to do hybrid into making it look good and sound good and keep the community together. So I'm offering myself up to other ministries to help with doing just exactly that. And there are a couple of little tricks to making it work successfully. And there are a couple of ways that you can, somebody once described it as shooting yourself in the foot through the head. There are ways to approach it in such a way that it's just never going to work. And sometimes it's just having somebody with that perspective of, oh, okay, these are the things to do. It would be nice to produce this so that it looks like the Grammy Award show, but you don't have that kind of talent, and you don't have that kind of budget, so here's what you want to do instead so that it's going to be good enough for the people remote, and it's also going to be doable for the people in the room. Because you can do a great job, but if you burn out your volunteers one Sunday, then who's going to do it next week?
Yep, exactly. Yep. Oh, and I've seen exactly what you're speaking about across so many communities in the last few years. Those that are treating the virtual audience as a bolt-on extra little, oh yeah, because we have to, and those that are moving towards embracing a true sense of what is hybrid, what is the next version. And I'm specifically thinking that I've long been associated with the Center for Spiritual Living in Salt Lake City, and Salt Lake CSL was poised through a long time vision of a world-class music ministry. And their tech team has always been outstanding. And when the pandemic came around, it took them about a heartbeat to make an adjustment, make a little pivot, and take what they were already creating in the room and allow that to be the online experience. And now how to hybrid that back and how to bring back in and not let go of that as we step back into our spaces.
Yep.
And you said you guys are stepping back into physical space now too, correct?
Yep. We're doing once a month at our new location. We had been meeting in a space at the University of Pennsylvania. And when everything shut down, we went home, and Penn still isn't letting outside groups back into their on-campus space for very understandable reasons. We had outgrown it anyway, so we, in the midst of all of this, we're looking for our ideal home. And I think we've done Sundays from a half a dozen different locations, and we've now found one that really feels like we fit there and that they fit us. And we did our first Sunday morning from there a couple of days ago. And we're going to be back there the second Sunday of the month at the Falzer Club in East Falls, Philadelphia. And so we're doing that once a month. We're poised to go back to doing it twice a month, but we're always going to do twice a month completely virtual because it feels different for the people who are remote to have everybody be remote. If some of us are remote and some of us are in the room, then it's different, and I'm okay with that, but not all the time.
Yeah.
So, and there are even there are people who live local, and I want it to be absolutely okay that if the person who is going to be doing the reading the offering or doing the reading or even the practitioner doing the prayers, if they change their mind at the last minute and decide that they're going to do it from Zoom, it should be seamless. It shouldn't be, oh well, you have to be here.
Right.
I want it to have that flexibility so that we can morph and adjust, and it's not like there's a difference.
Yeah, I like that. I'm not sure how I would like being in the room to find out the practitioner is suddenly going to Zoom in, but that would be my stuff, not theirs.
Yeah, we make it work.
Yeah.
So the person who was doing the reading wasn't feeling well, so she stayed home, and she was going to do the reading from home, but then she didn't have a voice, so we switched it to somebody who's going to be in the room anyway. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
The flexibility, to me, again, that's something that I've always seen in this movement, is the embrace of being flexible, of saying, okay, that's not going to happen, and that's not the way it's going, and I get it that it's on the paper for this way today, but that's not how it's really happening in real life. So let's do what works, and let's keep everything moving. We can reevaluate the rest of it later, if even necessary.
And the way that we did things before is not the way that we need to do things today.
Right. Yeah.
One of those little leftovers from our teaching is that principle is not bound by precedent, and that was Thomas Troward. The way things have been going, the way that they have worked in the past, that doesn't limit what can happen now. Everything is possible. So there's the embrace. What do we want to have happen? And not how do I want to do it? If I'm going to be the guy standing up in front, do I want to be able to see the sea of faces in front of me, and it's only the people who are in the room that are feeding my ego are the important ones? It's like, what do I really want to have happen? And how do we want that to land? How do we want it to connect? What do we want the next steps to be as we connect and share and grow and then extend ourselves? And when a new possibility comes along, say yes to it. And it's not necessarily just agree with whatever somebody comes up with. It's like, we should be able to do something like this. And it's like, all right, how's that going to work?
Right.
Yes, let's get to yes. Let's figure out how we can make that work rather than say we haven't done that before, so forget it.
Yep, exactly. I'm with you. It's an unqualified yes, but it has some qualifications.
Right.
Right. Unequivocally yes, but I got to put a couple of qualifications on this. How's it going to work? Who's in the manager? Who's going to make it happen? What's all the pieces and parts? Or to the best of your understanding, what are those? Where are the gaps that need to be filled in order to make this a yes that's in alignment with our vision, our mission, our community?
Right. I got a great story. The first conversation I ever had with Carol Lawrence, who's my podcast co-host, she had learned about New Thought by reading a lot of books. She calls them her ascended masters, the people who were dead. And she said, I need a teacher with some skin on him. And so the phone call with me was, can I be your student? Can I get into a class with you? And I said, the answer is yes. The answer, whatever we're talking about, the answer is yes. It's going to be yes. We need to make sure we understand exactly how the question goes. And that blew her away. The answer is yes. Let's work on the question. Because I don't know exactly how it's going to be yes, but there's something that's going to be a yes, and that's where the growth is happening.
Mm-hmm. We have to be clear on our definitions. We have to be clear on our desires. Mm-hmm. What does it really mean to be in a class with you? What does that, and how does that mesh with what I might be looking for or seeking in a teacher?
Right. And she found me because I was doing an online practitioner class that we were able to open up to students who were ready for practitioner training in the fall of 2020 that didn't have a local center where they could take it. So I was approached by our sister community in Wilmington, Delaware, because they had a whole bunch of practitioners and nobody who was qualified to teach a practitioner class. And they said, "Can you teach the class?" And I said, "Sure, as long as we're going to commit to doing the entire 2 years of it online, and we can open it up to other people." So we wound up getting 8 or 12 of their people, and then another half dozen who started the class all together. And we kept going for the entire time online. And the answer was yes. And actually, it was that class was the one that I was promoting that Carol found out about. And she says, "Oh, can I take that practitioner class?" And I said, "The answer will be yes. I'm not sure what it's going to be yes to." And it turns out that she wasn't prepared to take a practitioner class. So she's been in a bunch of my other classes since then. And along the way has decided that she doesn't really want to be a practitioner.
Imagine that.
She's okay. She knows how to pray for herself. She knows how to pray for other people. She basically teaches this stuff from her perspective. But she does not need to be. She does not need to be that. That in that particular role. And she spent 35 years serving somebody else's pulpit, and she doesn't want to do that
anymore. Good for her. I got to remember to tell her that the next time I see her. So the future of New Thought, we're coming back around, in many ways is based in the roots of New Thought. Because the original, my understanding, and the way I've always been taught and learned, is it wasn't about making a profession out of this. It was about practicing. It was about proving the principles and demonstrating the principles and to ourselves and those around us. But I was actually in a meeting earlier today with our prayer team and our prayer practitioners, and in the sharing I shared with them, and I'll share it again here now, is I've been reminded to not skip the documentation. And back in the way as students, we were required to document demonstrations of prayer, to document who asked for what and when they asked for it and what the experience was that resulted in a demonstration of that prayer. And in our relicensing and certification around the organizations that are our New Thought organizations, some of that has been lost, and it's been reemerging in me is to remember the documentation, to prove to ourselves, if nothing else, here's how I worked this. Here's the prayer that I had. Here's the request that came to me, or here's the desire that I had. And then here's the demonstration based on the prayer work that I've done.
Yeah. And every Sunday morning, we invite the people in New Thought Philadelphia to share a prayer work story. It's like, what was a prayer that you did and what happened? And they're great stories. And sometimes you get somebody who got a wonderful new job, and the person next to them, who's speaking next, is now in a relationship with somebody, and somebody else found money on the ground, and somebody else is like, there's no longer a fight with their sister or their daughter. And it's like, this stuff works.
Yeah.
This stuff works. And it's nice to have the reminder that if you stop what you're doing and take it into consciousness and do the prayer, instead of thinking about doing the prayer, and actually do it and work on your technique, it's transformational.
Yes. Excuse me, I'll frog my throat a bit, but because actually do the prayer.
Yep. Don't plan to pray. There's no such thing as gonna pray.
Yep. It's not, just hold on, let me put that in my book and I'll get back to it. It's do it. And in the Centers for Spiritual Living, in the ordination ceremony, there is a line that speaks to this and is credited to Dr. Ernest Holmes. And it says that a minister that's too busy to pray is far busier than God ever intended. And I have remembered that every time to every ordination ceremony I've ever been to. And I remember it every day, that if there's anything that says, oh, no, not right now, that's the thing to say yes right now to.
Yep.
Back to that say yes piece. It's I'm going to say yes, because you're calling and you're telling me you need prayer, and that's my job as a minister. And so I'm saying yes to whatever that prayer request, whatever that prayer call is, even if I'm 2 minutes late for another meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a friend of mine gave me the phrase "stop, drop, and pray." It's like, and it's the same thing, which is the takeoff on what somebody is supposed to do if their clothing or hair is on fire. You stop, drop, and roll,
Right.
and the same thing with prayer. You would not think, oh, my clothing's on fire. I'll get to that. I got some other stuff to do first. Like, no, stop, drop, and pray.
That's probably one of the most affirmative prayers ever, though, too. Because what's your mind doing? No, get this up. No, I'm not burning. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay.
You want to talk about looking a fact in the face and knowing something better. Boy, that's, yep. Okay, this burning clothing has nothing to do with me.
Yep.
I make this change to something different. I am open to transformation.
Open to transformation, not transfiguration. Yes.
Right. There's a couple other fun things that are coming up this year. The International New Thought Alliance, I'm also on the executive board there, has the annual Congress is going to be in Fort Lauderdale in July. And having lived in Fort Lauderdale for 9 or 10 years and been there through July, it's not necessarily my favorite time to go to Fort Lauderdale. But the good news is the air conditioning in Fort Lauderdale works just fine, and it's going to be hot everywhere the third week in July. And that is always a wonderful and enriching experience. There's details still coming together on that one. And then in August, we'll be in Chicago, the Parliament of World Religions.
Yes.
And that is an international get-together of people who are involved in a lot of different religions, but all are looking at the lane that we have in common. And New Thought is basically interfaith without a cornerstone faith, because we kind of do all of them.
Right.
So that is,
Yep.
I've never been to a Parliament of World Religions, but I've heard the stories from people who have, and that's going to be spectacular as well. And New Thought has a contingent that's being represented by all of the New Thought organizations, which is one of the things that I've been involved in, which is wonderful. And that's Centers for Spiritual Living and Independent Religious Science, which is what I'm part of, and Unity for all of the different branches of Unity, and the Universal Foundation for Better Living, and Divine Science is involved in that, and Agape and the Anton and INTA and the Association for Global New Thought all getting together and connecting and being able to celebrate what we have in common and rejoice in the different perspectives that we have.
Yeah. Going to be another fun one. There's a lot, we started talking about this last year, and the INTA Congress last year in Chicago was instrumental in really kicking this conversation up a notch, if you'll all pardon the expression, but in really kicking everything to bringing people together. That if nothing else, I think everybody agreed that we agree, and let's keep doing this. Now we're circling back around to actually finding ways of doing this. Mm-hmm. And the Parliament is one of those ways. And I do trust that the INTA Congress, and we'll be there, New Thought Media Network will be there, folks, so join us for this. This will be another demonstration of, I want to say, the interfaith of New Thought even. Yeah. Of bringing all these New Thought organizations that we're all part of the same tree. We've just, some branches have grown a little out this way and some have grown a little out that way. And now we're starting to embrace that connectedness again and that oneness from which we all spring.
Yeah. About 15 years ago, I was at a church growth seminar. I was being run by Gary Simons, who's from Unity, but has been involved in all of them. And the opening night, he's looked around the room. There were divine science people, there were religious science people, there were Unity people. And he knew that we all thought of each other as being different. And he said, these groups are all so similar. There's some modest differences. He says, religious science has really good music, and Unity has Jesus Christ. and and there's some richness and depth and texture that comes from all of the different approaches, and some of it resonates with some people and some of it resonates with other people, and everybody who's watching this now has one that they're involved in. Right. Some people have multiples that you're involved in, and so the charge for you is find out something about one of the other ones. If you don't know anything about divine science, find out a little tiny bit about divine science. And you can do that by Googling or looking up divine science or finding somebody who's involved in divine science or contacting me, and I will put you in touch with a divine scientist. And by the way, you have much more in common with them than you think.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. That has, you have encapsulated my journey over the last couple of years. And I've said this publicly before, and I'm sure I will again. I was a religious science snob. I was SOM is the way, CSL is the gig, and through all kinds of wonderful connections and opportunities, developed amazing friendships and relationships well beyond that portion of the New Thought universe, and I'll tell you, it's an amazing place because there's so many more cooler people out here than I knew about.
Mm-hmm.
The people I knew about are all cool and amazing. And now all of a sudden it's like, wow, there's all these other amazing and cool people, and yourself included, Bill. I reflect often on the fact that you tried to get me to listen to you and knocked on my door a few times, and it took a few opportunities before I finally slowed down enough to listen and say, oh, this guy.
Oh, yeah,
he's got an idea what he's talking about here.
And yeah, it's so easy to identify us by our tribe, and it goes back to principle. There is one power that shares itself as all of creation. So we are all one, but all of our senses tell us that we're individual. It tells me that I'm over here inside of this particular designer leather bag of human, and you're over there, and we're different. And our senses continuously reinforce that. We're on different trajectories and on different timelines and all the rest of that. And as soon as we're ready to overcome that just a little bit, it's like getting to yes, okay, well, where is the oneness here? What is it that we do have in common? If we did, what would that look like? And as soon as we open ourselves up to those possibilities, then suddenly all kind of things start happening.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Amen, amen. I love it. Oh, thank you for being with us today, Bill. It's good having you here. I don't want to let you go just yet, though. So I do want to kind of dig in a little bit more in your world, in your vision, and that's what I'm looking for. Your vision. What's the vision that's emerging for New Thought? Where do you really see this philosophy going?
There are a couple answers. Incrementally, it is growing and attracting new people and being able to understand new ways that we can resonate with the folks who are looking for us. I kind of describe my work as understanding that this New Thought teaching is like a bright light, and it's hidden down below the horizon. And my job is to hoist the light up high enough that people can see it over the berm, and because they've been looking for it. So that is the practical, incremental. This is what the business that I'm about at this point. And the transformational piece of it is to get to that point in our collective consciousness where we understand our oneness, and suddenly we are creating and doing things that seemed impossible previously. So there have been some experiments done about what happens when a group of people get together and pray for a transformation in a particular neighborhood or a particular area. There have been studies where the crime rate in a city goes down dramatically, and even as compared to a similar city that's not too far away. And the difference is there are people praying for that peace and for that harmony, and for whatever the abatement is, and the problems that are involved in the crime, and it works. So it has been very challenging to prove that prayer works scientifically, And it's mostly because the scientists are very arrogant about the ways that they think that things need to be evaluated to make them be scientific. 70% of scientists pray and believe that prayer works, but not during their day job. they
Not if
believe
you
it
want
in
to be
their
published, right?
right. So and the part that I was stuck on for the longest time is that if there's one mind, which is what we say, there is one mind that shares itself as all of its creation. And science is saying that in order to have something be proven valid scientifically, you need to do a repeatable, double-blind, peer-reviewed study. Well, you can't do double-blind if there's one mind, because there's nobody to be blind.
Right. Exactly.
So by the methodology, it starts falling apart.
Exactly. And truthfully, for me, that was one of the attraction factors when I first heard this, because it was explained to me, we are religious scientists. We are studying the effects of religion. We are studying the effects of spiritual practice. We are studying how the effects of the changing, we're studying human consciousness. And that was always a really big attraction for me, because the scientist gets to experiment and say, hey, I'm going to try it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Did it work? No. Okay, well, then don't do it that way again. Hey, I'm going to do it this way. Did it work? Well, halfway. Okay,
Yep.
So what can we do to make it work all the way? Hey, I'm going to try this. Did it work? Yes, it worked. Great. Do that again.
Yep, and that's the part of it that is scientific. Scientifically proving something and using science to do something are different.
Yes.
So what you're describing is going through empirically and saying, all right, well, if I'm doing this prayer and what I'm doing is I'm praying for something to stop happening to me and it doesn't work, well, is there something wrong with that? Okay, well, I'm told that this is a principle and it's a scientific proven principle. And what that means is that it works the same way for everybody. So if it works anywhere, it works everywhere. If it's worked for anybody, it can work for me. So now I need to work on my technique. So, I need to have an affirmation that's powerful and positive and personal and present tense. This is just all coming out of the practical prayer lingo, the 4 Ps. And those are the ones that tend to work. And they're activating a belief system where we've gotten ourselves out of the way, which means that we have to start the prayer practice by turning to that infinite creative power and then aligning ourselves with that. Because instead of me thinking I'm going to overcome my belief that I can't have something, I'm going to identify that there's an A-team and God is leading the A-team and I'm on that team. So I'm not going to create this newness in my life, but God and I together, I'm leaning on the big guy. And that's going to happen. And when I do it that way, and then move into gratitude and do whatever surrender and releasing and forgiveness work that I need to do to get my own self out of the way, then it works.
Right.
And sometimes we have to do more of that prayer-focused stuff in order to get a change in our experience because we run up against that pesky belief system.
Right.
If I believe that it can't happen, then it will continue to not happen just the way I believe rather than the way that I want it to happen, which is for it to be there.
It is simple. This whole thing, it really is, and we can make it sound simple, and you do, right? I think that's part of what I love about you, and why I love listening to you on Sundays, and we connect is because you make it sound approachable and simple, and that's the truth of this philosophy. And true, and I honestly, I don't know that I know anybody that tries to make it overly difficult. It's just easy to get lost in, I think, sometimes, and it's easy to kind of question ourselves and fall into the doubt and the disbelief. And several times in our conversation today, I've been reminded of the quote from Ernest Holmes on page 52, where he speaks to that if we believe that it's not going to work, then it doesn't really work, only it works by not working.
Yeah.
The power proves that it is valid by following our belief that it can't happen and it won't happen, and therefore it doesn't happen. And it's not hard to change that, but it can get a little confusing sometimes for some people, I think.
Well, yeah, and If you were to start somebody out with this teaching on page 52 of the Science of Mind textbook, their circuits would lock up and they say, this is, you can make anything happen. You can
Right.
do anything. But when you really dive into that, it's saying the same thing that Jesus was saying when he said, as you believe, so it's done.
Yep.
And yeah, if you believe it's not going to work, then it will work by appearing not to work. And,
Yep.
and don't blame it. It's your belief.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, one of my favorite really simplistic things to describe is that if your life is, if everything is happening as you believe, then if you want to know what you believe, look at your life.
Look at
Your life is a full-size, 100% scale topographical map of your belief system.
But
If it's showing up in your life, it's in your belief.
But wait, but no, I can't be responsible for this shit.
Well,
This
On
is
the one
happening
hand-
to me, Bill. This, you know.
yeah. On the one hand, I don't want to be responsible for it, but if I think about it, if somebody is going to be responsible for it, who do I want that to be? Because there are lots of people who will volunteer to take control of my life. And when I let them, then, as they say in the promos, hilarity ensues.
Hilarious.
Hilarity ensues.
And that is our segue to say, I love you, honey. Happy Valentine's Day. Bill, I'm grateful you're here today. This has been a lot of fun. We're going to get this wrapped up and let folks get off into their day and enjoy themselves. Folks, if you're having a good time here, please do hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Let your friends know what we're doing here on the New Thought Media Network. We're here every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. I cannot wait, Bill. We're going to have to get you rescheduled to come back next time when Rev Brz is here with us. So hopefully you'll be able to do that soon.
That would be lovely. Happy
Absolutely.
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. All right, folks, we're going to take off. Before we do, let's say thank you to our sponsors and contributors.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.